So, of course, you know me. My name is Dr. Keith McNeil. I'm here with Sheyenne Kreamer, and Cheyenne is here because I've invited her to talk to me about how suicide has impacted her life. Now, if you've watched the Envision Speakers series, where she was a part of, you know that in her past, several things happened where that was a reality. I'm inviting you now to maybe talk about that a bit more. Is that
Sure.
okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the more I reflect on some of these events, the more I realize that so much of my life work is tied up in this because, I believe that human life has such great value, and yet so many people aren't feeling that, aren't seeing that these days. And so when all of this really first happened in my world, I mean, I was like a junior in high school,
Mm.
and there was a guy that I had a serious crush on, and I don't even know if he knew that, but at the same time, there were just no outward signs or signals that I ever saw, and I was good friends with his sister, and she never saw. And we were just all blown away when all of a sudden he was gone. And I just remember then just feeling so devastated and just not being able to understand what drove people to go to that length. And, it really kind of got driven home even a little bit more. And it was kind of weird because after that, there were some of the students I was graduating with in high school that I just had this really bad feeling that they were headed off to go study things that they really it was more about how do I make good money rather than how do I feel like I'm contributing with my life.
Mm.
And one of my close friends, I mean, I was valedictorian. I ended up doing my valedictory speech on following your heart, but one of my closest friends he was 3rd in line, and I was just so aware that he was so drawn to the whole idea of being involved in ministry, and yet everybody in his family was pushing him to be an accountant because he was good at it. And he never really, in all the years that I knew him, got to really engage with that, with fully being part of the ministry. And, it was only a few years ago that my mother called because my mother was using him for tax prep work. And she told me that he committed suicide. And I was just like, I knew this was gonna happen
Oh, you mean so
somewhere.
rather recently?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but he'd lived all those years. And I had a friend tell me recently that, he had, it was like there was something where he had got drawn into alcoholism. He'd gotten drawn into, being on antidepressants all the time. There was all these things. And it just always has bothered me. It's like, wow, what if he had really just said, "No, I'm going to seminary or ministerial school or whatever," and just gone that way? Would it have been the same situation? I just don't know. And then a third one was probably about a decade ago now, and she was a close business associate, and she and I were working, in the healing arts, and, so again, this was just mind-boggling, and I knew she had struggled some with depression, and she was constantly trying to come out of it,
Mm.
but, what I think I really started to feel from her was that she had gone so far down this path of being, she was a very specialized type of massage therapist. And even though she loved being involved in healing people, there was something more that was calling to her. And for whatever reason, she couldn't even give herself permission to explore it, to pursue it, to really be able to get to a place where her heart was at peace, that she was going in the direction that she should be going. And, we'd known for a long time this was an issue for her. But again, she had gone off on a weekend conference with some friends, and people thought she was having a great time. And she came home, and that night, her husband found her. She'd overdosed on pills, and I'm like,
Yeah.
so, I guess that's I'm such a big advocate for folks, learning more about mental wellness at this point in time because, again, I'm a huge valuer of human life. I believe we're all here with a purpose, a mission, and, to see people just end up in that much despair is really, really a challenge, and, I'm here to do what I can do to help change some of that.
And I want you to continue to do what you do to change that. Cheyenne, thank you so much for this conversation. I'll talk to you later, okay?
Thank you. You're welcome.